All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Justin Carter. I'm a project associate with the Center for Rural Affairs, and I'm here today with Lynette and Gris. They are the owners of the Bat Academy in West Point, Nebraska. And yeah, it's a beautiful place. We're just here today to talk a little bit about the academy. So, um, thanks, Lynette and Gris. And could you also just tell me a little bit about how you ended up here in West Point, Nebraska?
Well, I grew up here as a kid, and then when I got out of college, I moved to California, Los Angeles, to pursue a career in the arts, and spent over 20 years out there. And we met, had kids, and then decided we wanted to try something a little slower paced and more rural. So we moved back to our hometown, and we're living out in the country, and then we have this little place.
Awesome. Well, yeah. So when you were out in California, did you get acquainted with the arts out there?
Yeah. So I have it's a long story, but primarily I'm a children's book illustrator and author, and I still do that because I can do that anywhere. But yeah, so I illustrate children's books, and once in a while I'll do concept art for film, animation.
Awesome. So what are some of the programs, some of the things that you guys do here at the Bat Academy?
Well, it's a self-directed makerspace for the arts, which means rather than people coming in here and we say, okay, follow these steps and you're going to create a piece of art that's going to look like everyone else who follows these steps and creates that same piece of art. People come in and they have at all of our materials, and they can just be creative and express themselves in whatever's in their heads and whatever they're feeling. And we're not controlling their creativity. We're not putting them in a box and saying this is what you're going to create. We basically say come in and be creative.
We tend to look at ourselves more as like a facilitator than a teacher. We're more here to just develop the skills further with the kids that they naturally have and gravitate towards. So if we see like an interest with an individual where they're really into watercolor, we're going to work a little more with that student or guest to develop their natural instinct or desire, or what's the word, natural, what they're drawn towards. We're going to just try to further that along.
Yeah, we're as involved as the individual wants us to be. So we'll, like, when they're working on a project, we'll check in on them and we'll be like, how you doing? You want any pointers? You good? And if they say they're good, we just let them be. But if a kid who wants more tips on painting, I'll sit with them and give them some tips. And we have books in the back that they can look through and kind of help them with anatomy if they're drawing a figure, or give them ideas for clay and sculpting.
Great.
So,
do you all mostly work with kids, or do you work with all audiences?
I mean, everyone can benefit from this place. I mean, that's what we set it up for. We have supplies we have edible finger paints, so you could bring in a baby and not be concerned if it puts its fingers in its mouth. And we have professional art supplies for adults.
And for children if they want to explore that as well.
But what we're seeing is, I would say primarily ages 5 to 13, I would say is probably the majority of the people that come in here.
Okay, awesome.
But we're definitely open to all ages, and we'd like to see a bigger variety of the age groups come in for sure.
Have you all seen the community of West Point get involved? Have you all been able to hold events here, or bigger shows, things like that?
I mean, we did an event with teammates. So they came to us and wanted us to, teammates, which was a mentoring program, and they came to us and wanted us to do an event with them. So we did tie-dyes. We tie-dyed over 100 shirts with the members of the program. And, we've been hit up. We've been hit up by individuals that we didn't necessarily come together and make things happen. But
We did a workshop a couple months ago with a couple of women from the Native American
Lakota tribe
and
and Omaha.
we did a dream catcher workshop with them, and we had them come and kind of talk about the history of the dream catcher and what it meant to them, and we did just like a little workshop with that.
We're doing a summer program with kids. It's like a summer camp that they bring the kids by every other week, and for 2 hours we sit with them, and it's between 20 to 30 kids that we do art projects with.
That's great. You all sound busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah.
So I guess working in West Point and getting to know some of the folks here, have you noticed or learned anything about the creative process or about your audiences here?
Yeah, I would say what we want to encourage is for people to express themselves and not be so structured. Like I think you go to school and everything, and the academics is based on structure and formulas, and I see a lot of that coming out here, and the arts is more about exploration, and it's about mistakes and inhibitions. And
I think it's a lot about the individual too. Like, to go back to like the sports are heavy in team, like a team effort, where this is like something that's just based on the individual. And I think what we're seeing and what I'm seeing is there isn't a lot of things offered that really hone in on the individual and help that person develop farther and like embrace the individual and discover who they are. And we feel like through the arts, it's such a safe environment and an easy way to discover who you are before they're old enough. Like I was trying to tell you earlier, like I feel like it's a good time to find out who you are when you're young and have this exploration, and through the arts use that. But when you're older, if you're not doing that, you're going to find further extremes to try to identify, like, well, who am I? I don't know who I am or where I fit in.
We all, I think, teenagers have a struggle with their identity. That's just what happens. And I think by giving people a head start and like letting children discover who they are through the arts, it helps them reconnect with themselves. I think a little more confidently as they get older, so that maybe it's not so difficult as a teenager, and maybe even for adults, so that there's adults who don't know who they are, so to just kind of help them with that.
And I think that's what we're noticing here is we're not only here for the kids and to help them realize what they're capable of, but it's also reminding the adults and their parents of what their own child is capable of, like
and
letting them
what they are
and what they
are capable
yeah.
of.
Right. It's just that giving them a space where they can step back and just let their child be and see that they're competent individuals to make decisions, I think has been a big thing. And educating the parents to realize that has been I would say our biggest challenge in the space is,
and just let the kids do their art,
let them be.
and not kind of sit over them and kind of control what they're creating. If the kid creates something and it's a mess, it's not a mess to that child. That child created. He worked out a lot of issues creating it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
But
seems like y'all are giving kids, adults a great outlet to express themselves in a rural community where they might otherwise be missing it, or might just
Right.
not have so many avenues to do that.
Well, I think that's what we noticed too. It's, these things are offered in the cities,
Mm.
right? But why aren't they in these rural communities where these kids need it just as much, if not more, because they don't have nearly as many things trying to occupy their time and attention. So it's like we feel like these rural communities need more. I know one of the things I noticed when we moved here is there was nothing for the kids outside of sports and academics. What did the kids do? And I found that it hurt me. It was like, we'd go to the park and there wouldn't be kids at the park. And it's like, well, where are these kids? Are they doing video games? Are they in Eternalite, doing things alone? So we really wanted this space where they could come here, they could work in a social environment with kids and try to bring back that interaction with kids that maybe they don't know. We're seeing that a lot in our space too, is kids are meeting each other for the first time that have lived here their whole lives because they go to separate schools. And so they're really finding each other in our space. And it's...
Yeah, and I think some parents can see this place as unnecessary because they have art supplies in their home. They're like, why can't my kid can just do art at home if that's what they're doing? And it's not that. This place is it's a social club, and children and adults come here and they meet other individuals who are into the arts as well. And so we've seen friendships blossom from who go to different schools who are now friends because they met here under the umbrella of the arts.
Wow, man, that's a cool connection.
Yeah.
So I want to get into a little bit of the other side of things. So with our project at the center, we're trying to encourage more artists to expand their work in rural communities, or maybe help them to the next step of forming businesses. What would you say are some of the big challenges to starting a business like this in a rural community, and what would be your advice to overcoming some of those?
I would say fear. We signed the lease on this place right when COVID hit, and I can make excuses for COVID, but the truth is, I think we were having some of our own internal fears, like opening up this business. So we didn't even do anything with the place for a few months. Like it wasn't, I think we signed the lease in April, and we didn't open it up until December. So I think there's a lot of people have doubts, and I think you just have to overcome those doubts and just go out there and do it.
Yeah, I think for me, I can say, we homeschool as well, and we had just moved here, and I noticed, that something was missing. I felt the arts were missing. I'm sure they're present in the schools and things like that, but in the community, I didn't feel the arts were here at all. And I struggled with, I really want this to be here, but I don't want to be the one that has to do it, right? It's, why can't someone else do it? And then I always say it was like a calling that was bigger than I was. It was almost like, you have to do it, and no one else is going to do it. And we struggled with that for a long time of, do we want to do it? No, we shouldn't do it. We got to focus on our family. And it came down to, if your community's lacking something and you're aware of it lacking that particular thing, there's no one else better to do it than you. I mean, that's what it just comes down to. You shouldn't move away, right? You shouldn't move away and seek it out somewhere else. It's just create it there. Why not bring it?
Yeah.
Bring it there, and don't let that fear hold you back. Because if you're passionate about it, it's going to be successful. Just do what you love and bring what you feel is missing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So any plans on the horizon? What are y'all's hopes and dreams for the Bat Academy down the road?
Well, we've talked about having more workshops, keeping the structure of the open arts available all the time, but having special events and workshops maybe once a week or twice a month or something like that. We've talked about doing some night programs, like, and not just, because the arts isn't just limited to the visuals. So we've talked about a book club. We've talked about game nights where we could have board games and have the youth, kids come in and, just to get together and have that social aspect for kids in this community.
We've talked about poetry tea time. We've talked about doing like a teen talk night with adults and teens, and just having conversations of whatever individuals want to talk about in a safe environment, with no judgment. And we really wanted to do more stuff like that. I think we want to do a lot. We want to do things like we want to do a Halloween parade where we have costume contests and parade down the street. We want to do big events too.
We've even talked about bringing in authors and illustrators to do book signings. And, with my career, I have relationships with a lot of people in the industry. It's just trying to figure out, I can get them to Omaha to do events there, but getting that transportation here, so it's those kind of things that we're trying to figure out, and see if we can make it happen.
And finding our place in the community. I mean, I think that's been our biggest hurdle too, is trying to, you want to accommodate the community and what people want, but you also want to stay true to your vision and what you feel you want to bring and what we can provide. And I think that's the struggle now, is the community wants to pull us in one direction, but we feel it's really important to stay in the direction that we want to be in. And I think it's trying to educate the community on who we are and what we want to bring and how we see it as valuable,
Sounds like you all are staying really true to yourselves. Thank you so much for meeting with us today. Any final thoughts for aspiring artists out there in rural communities, folks who might want to get into this field?
Opening a business?
Or just the arts.
Or just the arts?
Yeah. Small town.
Just do it. Create. I don't remember the numbers or the statistics. I think it has to do with something to do with the Beatles. I think you can probably research it. But it has to do with how many hours you put into your craft before you will
10,000.
see.
I think it's 10,000 hours. Yeah, before you're a professional.
Before you're a professional, or you see success from it. So I've had a lot of kids and adults come to me and say, I want to do what you do, but I just don't have the inspiration or the drive to sit down and do the artwork. It's like, then you probably don't want to do what I'm doing. Like that should be the thing you want to do when you wake up in the morning, is create art. Like it should be hard for you not to create art if that's what you want to be. And just do it all the time. And eventually.
And I think that's it too. If it's your passion, don't let anyone deter you from that passion. Don't let anyone tell you, you can't have a career in art. It's hard to have a career in art. Like, it is hard.
It is hard, but you can do it.
But you can do it. We all have setbacks, and we all have bumps in the road where you think, oh, this is taking me off my path. And I think it doesn't,
Yeah, it doesn't. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much. We really value everything that y'all are doing here. Definitely looking forward to seeing where the Bat Academy goes, and what it does here in West Point. So, thank you all.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to the Bat Academy. When people come in here, they usually walk in, and we have art supplies that they can use. So they'll come this way, and we give them 5 projects that they can only do one of within the hour that they're here, and that's because the cost of these
these projects are a little more expensive than some of our other supplies. Those 5 projects are: they can paint on a canvas, they can sculpt something out of air dry clay, they can paint a t-shirt, they can paint a canvas bag, and we also have bracelet beads over here that they can make their own bracelets. So they can pick one of those things, or they don't have to do those at all. Some kids will come in and they'll just work in a sketchbook and work with pencil or markers. But basically, if they pick those 5 things, they can only do one within that $15. And outside of that, we have all these other supplies that they can use. So if they finish their project, they're just free to keep creating art. And we have markers, crayons, colored pencils, watercolor pencils, professional markers. We have charcoal, different forms of charcoal. We have wooden things that can be painted. We have acrylics back here. We have watercolors. We have craft supplies and glues. We have Play-Doh. We have everything you could think of. And what we really encourage is for kids to feel comfortable with this space, know our supplies. They come in and just have at it. Get what you want, take it to your table, and just create whatever's in your head. So we have aprons. Back here is what we call the community art jam, and everyone's welcome to come and add to the painting. And then when it gets full enough, we roll it up and we put up a new one. And this one's pretty much ready to wrap up. But it's a place for everyone to so a lot of our art is all about the individual. And this is something that's about working as a team and knowing how to add to someone else's work and be respectful about it. Over here we have some of the artwork that has been created and left here. Most of the time kids pick up the stuff, and sometimes it gets left behind. Because I think being process art, which is what you get from creating the art opposed to what the art ends up being, that's what happens here a lot. That's kind of what we encourage, and that's what, especially children, that's what they do, and that's why they create so much artwork. But once they create it, very few kids are attached to the artwork that they created. They're ready to move on to the next thing. So sometimes artwork gets left behind and we hang it up here. Outside of the studio, we offer art supplies, small selection of art supplies for this community, so that you can come by and pick up semi-professional paintbrushes and professional watercolors. We have professional graphite pencils and clays and sketchbooks and all kinds of different art supplies. And being a children's book illustrator, I also wanted to offer kids' books. And so we offer comic books and picture books. Over here we have a small little bookstore that you can come and find picture books, and we have chapter books for young adults and things like that. And then we offer other small gifts as well. So I've been illustrating children's books for 20 years and have around maybe just over 40 books that I've done. Here's a few that we have in the store. Worked with publishers from Scholastic and HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, and even Disney. So have a very broad group of publishers that I've worked with. And I guess I would be described as kind of a macabre or spooky illustrator. Most of my books are themed around Halloween or kind of have a darker spirit to it, but still with a comedic undertone.